Good morning, everyone. To start our program, let's call on our Microsoft certified trainers from Union Bank. You're on, guys.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Don D. Asuncion, and we are very much excited to communicate with you, uh, considering we are in a lockdown mode, and this is our first time to do this. And well, I'm seeing participants all over the Philippines, so that's why we're very much excited. Together with me, by the way, my name is Don D. Asuncion. I'm actually a executive of Union Bank of the Philippines. And together with me as panelist will be Dende Asis, who is also a part of Union Bank, part of our HR team. We also have Jennifer Dituco, who unfortunately is, I think, Jen, you're in the office, no? I see that you're in the office. And then we have Bas Avellino, who's also part of the Union Bank HR team. So, well, kanina I was seeing that, well, I'm seeing messages, and I'm just warmed that we have participants coming from all over the country. I saw someone greeting us from Tuguegarao, Pampanga, Cabanatuan, Palawan. Well, I have Cavite, and there's Agusan, even Agusan. So welcome, everyone. Hopefully, today's session will be really beneficial to you. We know that as educators of our young learners, I understand elementary and high school, you are playing a very critical role in the formation of our youth who will actually run the country in the next few years. So it's also very challenging because of where we are today. I think this is an unprecedented event where, in the course of my lifetime, I haven't really seen something like this where, I always, when I was a student, I will usually wake up at 6, go to school at 7, spend my day, the whole time in the classroom or in school, and then go home at 3 or 4, but 3 or 4 p.m. But nowadays, it's very different. So challenging times calls for, challenging, what do you call it? Maybe concept, or maybe some perspective as well. So we are here to help you. Hopefully, to be able to, for you guys to continue your critical role or tasks in educating our learners. So for today, let me just prepare some of my. So for today, we will actually be talking about the features and benefits of flexible learning. And we will, aside from that, we will try to center on what is important nowadays, which everybody is to online learning. Okay. So first is, what is flexible learning? No? It's actually a multi-layered. Then can you scroll on the next slide, please? And so I couldn't see my screen. There. Then can you move to the next slide? Okay, learning in the new normal.
I think Dancer was frozen.
Oh, okay. So sorry. How do we do? Do we wait for her? Because she has the materials. Let me just check if I can share it. Let me see. No, nawala si Dan. I think she's ano. Dan, can you share the materials again, please? First page. Oh, we have about 149 participants already. Wow. Okay. Second slide, please.
There. Is it showing?
It's showing, but it's not the, no, it's not the slide presentation. It's the, yeah. Okay.
There you go.
Okay. So, well, as a teacher today in the new normal, I guess the general question to us is, what is the worry of our teacher today? You know, considering, you know, how do we now effectively teach our students? No, I guess this is the general questions that to the minds of our teacher is lingering. No, and maybe as a question and answer portion later on, we can tackle this in the Q&A portion at the end of the session. Right? Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so what is flexible learning? Flexible learning is actually multifaceted and multi-layered, meaning it's, you know, it's a different type of teaching or learning where you will share different perspective, not only the teachers, but also the students. It also calls for a different approach in style. You know, it's not like one way lang, teacher in the classroom standing up and then the students sitting down and listening. It's actually where, what, where, when, and how do we deliver the lessons and teachings. You know? It's also centered on the learner, meaning the central focus is basically the student. And it's not only, as I said, it's not only one approach. We have to look at each and every student and find out what it is that will motivate them or drive them to learn. You know, it encourages greater independence and autonomy in the sense that in flexible learning, the students are given, you know, more time and different approach on how to tackle a certain activity. So they will have greater autonomy on how to do things, where to do things, and when to do things. Of course, it's time bound, but I guess in a course of, let's say, 1 week's time, and a prime example is teacher will do an online thing and then he will leave an assignment, and then the students are given maybe 2 days to complete it. And then afterwards, it becomes an outcome-based approach. You know? So the students complete it on their own, they research, and then they just meet with the teacher virtually at a given date to discuss or submit whatever was assigned to them. It is also about improving learning outcomes. No? When you say improving learning outcomes, the experience of the students while doing flexible learning is very different because of the different approach and interaction that happens. No? Not only between the teacher and the students, but it's also the students to the teacher and also between students themselves. It maximizes learning engagement, as I said, because of the different approach. The learner is more engaged, they feel more responsible, and they feel more motivated to do the different types of activities that are into the flexible learning. Next then. Okay, maybe we prepared a video for us to watch to better understand what flexible learning is all about. Can we play the video?
Hi everyone, Teacher Dong here and welcome to Literacy Corner. Marahil marami ngayon sa inyo ang naguguluhan pa din at nababahala sa kung ano ang magiging setup ng inyong mga anak pagdating ng pasukan ngayong Agosto. Don't worry dahil sa video na ito ay pag-uusapan natin ang iba't ibang learning delivery modalities na binanggit ng DepEd kamakailan lang. Ang mga iba't ibang learning delivery modalities ay face-to-face learning, distance learning, blended learning, at homeschooling. Sa distance learning ay may tatlong uri, ang modular learning, online learning, at TV or radio-based learning. Unahin natin pag-usapan ang face-to-face learning. Ito ay ang nakagawian ng setup ng inyong mga anak kung saan si teacher at ang inyong anak ay nagkaklase sa iisang physical na classroom. Ngunit, kamakailan lang ay pinalang sinabi ng Pangulo na walang mangyayaring face-to-face learning ngayong Agosto. Ibig sabihin ay hindi po kailangang pumunta ng inyong anak sa paaralan. Pag-usapan naman natin ang distance learning. Ang unang uri nito ay ang modular learning. Sa modular learning ay bibigyan po ang inyong anak ng module. Ang module ay isang self-learning material. Ibig sabihin ay nakadesign ito na kayang magawa ng inyong anak nang siya lang sa sarili niyang oras. Kung meron po kayong computer o tablet, pwedeng ang module na ibibigay sa inyong anak ay electronic ang format. Kapag naman wala kayong computer o tablet, ay ang printed na module ang ibibigay sa inyong anak. Makipag-ugnayan lang sa paaralan ng inyong anak kung paano makukuha ang mga modules na ito. Ang sunod naman ay ang online learning. Ang online learning ay kailangan ang computer o tablet o smartphone at internet. May dalawa itong uri, ang synchronous online learning at asynchronous online learning. Sa synchronous online learning ay sabay na magla-live call ang inyong anak at ang teacher gamit ang computer o tablet o smartphone. Para itong normal na klase pero sa online nga lang. Sa asynchronous online learning naman ay hindi na kailangan na sabay mag-online at mag-live call sa teacher at ang iyong anak. Gagamitin lamang ang computer at internet para makakommunicate sa isa't isa sa teacher at ang inyong anak para mabigay at makuha ang mga learning materials. Ang TV o radio-based learning naman ay mag-aaral ang mga bata sa pamamagitan ng TV at radio. Dito ay kailangan na nakagabay kayong mga magulang. Kung sa tingin ninyo ay hindi nyo kaya, mas mainam na makipag-ugnayan sa paaralan ng inyong anak para kayo ay maturuan kung paano makatulong sa pagkatuto ng inyong anak. Ang susunod naman ay ang blended learning. Ito ay pinaghalong distance learning at face-to-face learning. Ngunit, dahil hindi na pwede ang face-to-face learning, ang blended learning ay distance learning na lang din. At ang panghuli ay ang homeschooling. Dito ay ikaw mismo na magulang ang magtuturo sa inyong anak gamit ang mga learning materials na angkop sa inyong anak. Ngunit, kailangan muna na kayo ay magkaroon ng nararapat na pagsasanay bago makapagturo. Makipag-ugnayan muna sa paaralan kung ikaw ba ay kwalipikado na mag-homeschooling. Ngayong alam nyo na ang different modalities, patuloy lang na makipag-ugnayan sa paaralan ng inyong anak upang inyong malaman ang nararapat na paraan para hindi matigil ang pag-aaral ng inyong mga anak habang wala pang vaccine para sa COVID-19.
Okay. Before I actually continue, in our platform, if you can see, there is a lot of, there are portions there or segments there where you can actually, there's a Q&A button where you can actually type in some of the questions that you would want us to discuss later on at the end. Of course, there's also a chat. I see a lot of good mornings from the different participants. No? But for your Q&A, para mas makita namin po and then madiscuss natin, I think it's better that you post the questions in the Q&A portion of the platform. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, as mentioned kanina, flexible learning is basically, has a different perspective. It's a different approach or style in actually delivering the messages. Okay, so It was discussed kanina. One of it is face-to-face. Of course, that's a classroom type traditional learning approach. I won't discuss that anymore. But we will dwell more on the second one, which is the distance learning, where you have what you call the modular learning and the online learning. I won't be discussing about home and TV based because I think it's not applicable. So I will dwell more on the online learning. But first, let me go into the modular learning. The modular learning is actually an alternative instructional design that uses developed instructional materials which are based on the needs of the students. So it's basically a module type, meaning it's something that can be completed at a certain point in time. Students are encouraged to work on various activities. So iba-ibang activities to that are very much interesting. It should be challenging so that the students can maintain focus and attention. It shifts the traditional method of instruction to an outcome-based. As you saw in the video, it mentioned that in the modular learning, the students are given a module, ito yung materials nila, and then nandun lahat yung instructions in the hope that, let's say the timeline will be after 3 days, or the students will have to complete all those activities, and the next time that they see the teacher, let's say after 3 days or 1 week or whatever is the timeline given, the student and the teacher will just look at the outcome of the activities that was done by the student on that particular module. As mentioned, it can be physically face-to-face, yung pag-deliver ng materials, but nowadays, we will have to contend with online. Okay. Okay. So home study, well, that approach is something that we will we will discuss later. But I also prepared a video of what there are 2 types of online learning. So Dan will actually play the video now before I discuss them. Okay, so then can we go on to the blended learning? Sorry, let me just check. Where are we? Factors to consider. No? So as I mentioned, there are two types of online learning. No? Let me just walk through that one. There's what you call asynchronous learning, where the teacher and the students are online at the same time. So everybody is online. No? Example ho nito would be video conferences. No? Ito, madalas natin gawin. Siguro, usually among teachers as well, siguro. You know, when you talk to someone on the other line and then you're all present at the same time, it's called conferencing, right? And we usually, in a context sa amin in the office, this is what's happening also today. You know? When we want to discuss certain items or certain concerns with our customers, or sometimes since work from home kami with other teams within the bank, we do video conferencing. No? And there are a lot of materials or platforms that are free or that you can use on the internet. An example would be, you know, Adobe Connect, Google Meet, and then you also have, ito, madalas namin gamitin yung Microsoft Teams, tapos Zoom. I think Zoom is the one that we're using today. No? Synchronous learning example is also includes interactive webinars. No? Ito yung seminars where it's conducted over the internet. No? You have a speaker and then you have a live audience. It can be one way where the speaker is the only one, you know, speaking, or it can be two-way, meaning it becomes a chat, no, some sort, something like that, no. So another example would probably be lecture-based broadcast, you know, which is broadcast at the same time, no. So the second type naman ng online learning is what you call asynchronous learning, no. It is a general term used to describe forms of education where the instruction and the learning does not occur in the same place and at the same time. No? It uses resources that facilitate information sharing outside of the usual online or place of network. No? Example would be, you know, mga e-learnings, no? Materials that you get on the internet, no? Where it has been stored, the materials has been stored and then pinupull up lang natin for us to use or for the student to use, no? You also have recorded audio and video briefings, no? Where discussions or seminars are recorded by the instructors and then it is saved in a platform or online. And students or whoever is the participant get to watch them over and over, regardless of what time it is. No? And then self-study materials is also part of asynchronous learning. So I think the more important thing here for online learning is how do you seek a balance? How do you seek a balance between synchronous and asynchronous? Maybe I can ask our other panelists, Sina Den, Sina Jen, and Sina Bas, what do you think about, you know, how to approach it between synchronous and asynchronous? Den, would you like to give any comments on that?
Hi. Yes, sir. Actually, we did a quick poll with our other teachers present, no? So which works for them the best, asynchronous learning or synchronous learning? So most of them answered asynchronous learning. So ito po siguro yung mga shy type, no? Mga shy type, gusto nila self-learning on their own. And they have their own pacing. Kasi lahat po tayo may iba-ibang learning curve, di ba? Lalo na kapag medyo technical o bago sa atin yung concept na ini-introduce. So for me po, I work best doing synchronous learning. So kagaya nga po ng shinare ko last time, I'm a kinesthetic learner. So I learn by doing and by application. And I usually ask someone to do a demo for me in terms of theoretical, kung math man yan or science. Ayun. So, Miss Bas, Miss Jenny, anong the best sa inyo? Synchronous learning or asynchronous?
Hi, Dan. For me, it's synchronous as well. Kasi yun din yung pinili ko for my kids. Actually, yun din yung pinili ko. It works best with me and for my kids.
How about si Bas?
Yes. Pero may group work kasi kayo, no? Kapag synchronous learning.
Yes. At the same
Miss
time,
Bas.
parang banding na rin.
Yeah.
Opo, bonding tama, for parents and children.
Yeah, but I would
Work
understand.
bus?
Correct. But I would understand, like, putting myself in the place of the teachers, diba? Where you have one teacher, meaning say if I'm the teacher and I have maybe, well, average student would probably be around 35 to 50 students per class. Sometimes it gets challenging, no? So that's why I'm saying for the teacher, seeking the balance is one of the more critical tasks that one has to put up with, because between those 35 to 50 students, you might want to have, you might have to have different approaches, no? That works for them, because it's not only, like what you said then, some are shy, yung iba naman bibo, di ba? Gusto nila recitation, pag nandyan yung teacher, recite. Yung iba naman, mas gusto nilang they absorb and then they actually perform during group work where the teacher is not there, no? So it really is a seeking the balance, no? And the teacher knows the learners better, and at some point in time they will be able to see and find out which works best for a particular student or for a particular group of students, no? But again, sa online learning, it's really not that simple, no? There are really factors that needs to be considered when you talk about online learning. Then can we go to the next slide? Oh, sorry. So blended learning. Okay. When you say blended learning, I have to go back lang. For the blended learning, it's actually approach to education that combines online educational materials and an opportunity for interaction online or with traditional space. Just like what I said, blended learning, I think, is similar to asynchronous, no? Where there may be times that the teachers will have to meet the students, to give instructions online. So you have synchronous there, sabay-sabay. And then at some point in the discussion, the teacher would probably group them together and give them assignments, which they need to complete maybe in like 3 or 4 days. And each student will have to work with a certain group outside of that online class. So when the students meet on their own and then come up and complete that activity, that's part of the asynchronous as well. No? So a blended learning is basically a general summary of what I think is the more effective means that might have to be done, considering where we are today, where students are not allowed to go to the class to learn. No? Okay, next. Okay, so again, I go back. What are the factors to consider for the teachers in terms of, doing online learning? One is creating content. I think it's one of the more critical part. What do we deliver? Okay. While emailing documents and hosting discussion forums are effective, it may prove to be ineffective, and therefore we have to check on tools which as teachers can use to create our materials. No? In creating content, I'd like to ask my teammates, what do you do? I mean, for example, when we do presentations, when we try to prepare for presentations to a group or seniors, how do you do it? Maybe some tips from Jen and Bas. How do you create your content for your presentations? online?
I think for this one, Sir Dondi, I'd like to volunteer Miss Bass. Since she's usually presenting to our HR executives as well as to our board members.
Okay,
Miss
good.
Bass,
Sige,
are
so
you
si
there?
Bas, yeah.
So when creating content, it's really our tips basically is really to first know your audience, know where are they coming from. You really understand kung sino sila, kung mga syempre kung mga bata yan, they would love graphics and then they would love storylines. Usually ang rule sa creating contents or PowerPoint is more about visuals and not words. Kasi kung masyado ng marami, hindi ka na makikinig, magbabasa ka na lang. Unlike kapag visuals lang, mga pictures halimbawa, and then you will listen to the speaker, di ba? And then marirelate pictures. So may ganun siya. So there are students kasi na ganun talaga. So that's one of my tips in creating content. And then meron tayong kasabihan, di ba, minsan that the less is more in presentation.
Yep. Yeah, you're correct. Visuals speaks louder than, the spoken words, actually. Okay. But just to add to that, any other tips from the panelists?
Yes. Creating content, just like what Miss Bass said, knowing your audience. So if these are students, if these are high school students, or these teenagers, preschoolers, pretty much alam to ng mga teachers natin na depende sa audience nila or students nila yung attention span, consider din nila yun in terms of creating content. That's why we also had the session last time, which is understanding our learners, because it's also a way of us understanding our audience. Di ba, Ms. Jenny?
I agree. Ganun nga. So, sabi nyo nga kanina, kailangan malaman natin kung who are our audience. And then from there, we can start preparing the presentation. Short, but it should be engaging. And aside from that, kaya sabi nyo nga, lalo na sa mga student, kasi usually ang more of our teachers here na nagpa-present are from LM and high school, it should be more of an avatar, di ba? Tapos, we have to infuse dun sa mga contents ng presentation natin kung ano din yung in or ano ba yung uso na mga pinagkakagustuhan ng mga bata ngayon para ma-engage siya. Tumutok siya dun sa discussion. Kailangan natin kuhanin yung kung ano ang gusto ng mga student, di ba? Yung mga bata. At maipakita natin or maipresent natin yung gusto natin in a short pero meaty. Ika nga.
Okay, thank you for that. To me, what I can add there is, aside from keeping the student in mind, and what they want, what they like, what motivates, it's one is keeping our goals in mind or objectives in mind. Why what we are presenting, because sometimes we can get lost in the discussion. But if we, keeping our objectives in mind, I think it's one of the more important thing. The other thing there is we should reinforce the messaging frequently, in terms of our presentation, just for the students to get the hang of what is it what we're trying to say, aside from just the presentation materials. Next, the next important factor that I feel is that needs to be considered is curating the content. Not everything will be coming out from our own ideas. The selection, organization, and presentation of online materials is also very important. We're very fortunate that I think we have the internet to help us because we have lots of materials to choose. My tips there is because we can be overwhelmed with a lot of information. For me, one is again, know what the messaging is all about. What's the key message that we need to impart? Second is we just need to make it simple and organized. so that hindi siya cluttered, no? So para mas maintindihan. And the third would be find reliable sources when we try to get information, bits and pieces here and there from the internet, so that the messaging is going to be more clearer to our students. The third one is actually providing continuity. When I say continuity, meaning communication must be proactive. Due to the informal approach, it's very easy for students to lose the connection and the focus, because they're not in the classroom. They work on their own. They work at their own pace. That's why to me it's very important. Any sharing from the panelists on this one, providing continuity, because, as you know, students will be left on their own. What do you think would be, what would be more an important factor there that we need to consider?
So I guess in terms of providing continuity, it's more of creating a flow wherein kids can follow. So in other terms, we also try to talk in their language. Ika nga. So sabi nga kanina ni Miss Jenny, how she connects and how she reaches out to her children or kids who are studying is through bonding time, creating that moment so that they would be able to grasp and absorb everything. So continuity, so meaning in simple terms, it's actually being consistent when it comes to your message. Walking the talk, so hindi lang siya basta talk, you actually have examples, you set the role as a model to these students. So this is quite challenging, especially online. Hindi katulad kapag physical, di ba nakikita ka nila, paano ka makipag-usap sa ibang tao, paano mo sila kausapin at tulungan matuto, gano'n. So I think this is more of the consistency and authenticity when it comes to providing lessons to our students.
Hey.
Miss Jen, Miss Bass, anything you would like to add po?
Okay, I think that says it all, no? The next one that needs to consider is distribution of materials. Since we're doing online and part of distance learning, this is one very simple terms. We just have to make sure that the students know where to find the materials that we will distribute or that they will need to get. And therefore, we should use mobile-friendly formats, no? So that it's easier for them to understand, no? The next that needs to be considered for us is actually what you call fostering collaboration. And I think this is one of the more critical outcome in an online environment. Bas, any tips or any sharing that you'll have, why fostering collaboration is something very important in an online scenario?
Yeah, I think I've mentioned this last session, Sir Dondi. Now, I think what really is different right now is just the platform. But I think the relationship building should still be there between the student and the teacher. The very essence of education is still there. So it's really important that you engage or you keep in touch with your students, the teachers, and also the students should also keep in touch with their classmates. So it's still important that they have group work, they engage in discussions so that they could better deliver or they can better improve themselves, because there are really students that must gear towards that yung learning. They can deliver more if it's a teamwork. So, and it's also, it will be a debate of ideas. So you learn a lot when you engage with people, right? So
yeah.
I think it's really the message of this one.
I guess the role of the teacher there is really how to, foster that one, meaning give a lot more group works, simple group works where students among themselves will have activities where it will actually need everyone to collaborate with each other. No? Okay. Anyway, so those are some of the factors that one needs to consider when you talk about online learning. And we know that today, while the challenges are there are also a lot of benefits, no, to this online learning. Not because it's an answer to where we are today, because students are not going to the classroom, but outside of that, it's born out of this. But outside of that, there's really a lot of benefits of the e-learning that as we are realizing. No? Then can we flash the next slide, please? Okay, first one, okay, is e-learning is informal. The lack of formality actually can be appealing to students. No, maybe siguro I'll ask si Jenny on why you think that the informal way of learning has an appeal to students. No, I mean, in your own words, Jen, can you give us some of your thoughts?
Maybe because kids now are into technology na talaga eh. 'Di ba? Kahit mga maliliit na mga 2-year-old, mga ganyan, sanay sila on using the gadgets. So, when we use these gadgets because nga of this pandemic na nangyari sa atin at informal yung teaching, ganyan, mas parang nai-express nila yung mga gusto nilang sabihin. Napapansin niyo po ba ngayon na, di ba nasa bahay tayo, may GC tayo, doon tayo nag-uusap-usap, di ba? So, feeling ko ganun din yung karamihan sa mga students ngayon. Ito yung learning ngayon, though it's difficult kasi umpisa pa lang, di ba? May mga birth pains, di ba? Pagka nag-start pa lang tayo, ganyan. Pero I think this is okay for the students. It works for my kids, I think, and maybe a lot of kids mag-work din sa kanila.
Yeah. To me, what I can say about it is that students today, are very vocal. They have a different way of doing things, no? And it's with e-learning, each student has the opportunity to seek her own style and can be more fun due to the informal approach of teaching, because they can actually do where, when, and how they do things. They're given more autonomy, as mentioned earlier. Also, with the interaction with more people, they can share their experiences, especially outside of the structured classroom settings, in collaboration. And it provides young learners to explore topics of interest using an array of resources, especially the digital resources. I mean, the internet itself, not only the structured ones, but as you probably would know, social media is actually a rich source of information where, young people are all into it. So parang gano'n. Okay, the next benefit that I see is that students have a greater choice, when they complete their learning activities. More choices means students have more freedom on how to tackle and complete activities. Today, as I mentioned, students think that they have more control, freedom over how they do things, when they do when they will do these things, and where they will do it. So they're not only bound by the classroom type. Another benefit is opportunity for students to develop collaborative skills. I guess that was mentioned a little while ago, where because of all this online learning environment, there's a lot more sharing of experiences. There's a lot more group works because we're not in the classroom type, and therefore students who talk among themselves have more freedom to talk with each other. They're more at ease to discuss what they think. in the end, the outcome there is that they become more collaborative, they become more engaging, they are more eloquent, mas madaldal, mas nagbibigay ng ideas, no? Only because the approach is very much different. They are not into a big crowd. They're not in the center, standing in front of the classroom, so they can freely, say what they want to say in a digital environment. The other benefit here, as I mentioned, is it's an opportunity to communicate in a more equal way. When I say equal, is that not being in a classroom. Imagine in a classroom then. What do you remember siguro then when you were a student and there's a recitation time and teacher would ask a question, di ba? What do you recall pag ganun, pag recitation time? Ano yung nangyayari sa mga students, no?
Sir, pag recitation kasi yumuyuko ako eh.
Okay, yumuyuko ka,
Ayan.
no?
Yumuyuko ko ako para hindi
the
ko
one type of
tawagin
the,
ng teacher ko.
that's the one type of the students, no? But do you remember that there are also these few students who will always be the Bibo students, who would always raise their hand,
Yes.
who are always ready to recite, no? And therefore, in the end, they actually sometimes dominate the whole discussion, no? Where the students, the likes of them, would probably just wait until matapos, yuyuko na lang or magte-take notes na lang, pero hindi mo maririnig ang boses nila. Di ba? Maybe because
Yes, sir.
maybe because it's a fact that you don't want to be put in the limelight, no? In a way, it's you're in the limelight when you're reciting kasi tawagin ka ng teacher, tatayo ka, di ba? Sometimes talagang maraming mahihiyain talaga, no? So, I guess in a online environment where they don't see you, they don't feel your physical presence, and you don't feel their physical presence, it's very easy to talk, to converse, whether it's a teacher or with your fellow students. No, so in a way, the communication becomes more equal. No? It's more two-way than just some few dominating the whole conversation. No? So those are the things that we feel are benefits to online learning. No? But then again, let's not be about it. While there are benefits in terms of online learning, there might also be, can I go to the next slide? Let's just wait for the next slide. Yeah, as I said, while there are benefits, there are also challenges, no? Especially for the teachers, no? Kung dati, kontrolado mo yung classroom kasi nakikita mo lahat ng students, they're physically present, you can easily control the situation, di ba? Online learning is different, no? Not only because it's new, but because distance learning somehow takes the control out of the teacher, no? Because of that, non-physical non-face-to-face discussions or interaction. No? One of the challenges actually is the adaptability struggle. And I'd like to call on the panelists who would like to share the challenges of adapting to the new normal or to the online. Can you share your thoughts on this?
Hi. So, actually, sir, this was one of the news shared by our group HR officer, Ms. Michelle, to our Viber group when she saw that we presented last Wednesday for the Heroes 2021. And it's really, I don't think it's enough that we're just doing this, but I think that we could actually do more and do better. So adaptability to struggle is really one of the challenges, especially if kids were not exposed to using laptops, or they were not exposed to having classes online, because they were expecting that they would be outside in school physically with meeting new friends personally. So I think this is really this is a true story from CNN, by the way. I think the country is Australia, if I'm not mistaken. This is a kid who was saw by his mom crying during the first day of his school. So it's really different eh. It's an adjustment for students, for parents, and very much for our teachers. So adaptability to struggle, hindi po talaga lahat magaling when it comes to technology. So
Yeah.
even for me, sir, even for self-paced learning or training, I'm also having my difficult time in absorbing new concepts and theories.
Correct. So it's really just the mindset and also the struggle that, you know, these are new things, no, that are being rammed onto us because of this situation. No? But I think one of the other challenges is actually technical issues. No, I guess let's not dwell too much on this. No, yung connectivity issue natin. One is, do the students have the gadgets to actually to use? No, as mentioned. No, do they have enough computers? Do you have enough computers? Do we have the right connections? As it is now, sometimes kahit na nag-video conference ho kami, kahit kami mismo, minsan nawawala kami bigla. As example, kanina, si Den nawala, no? Because of maybe because of the usage in general in the Philippines. And generally, people are saying that the internet needs to be strengthened, no? Para yung connectivity issue, hindi ano. Because the moment that you're cut off, hirap nang pumasok ulit. No? Imagine if, let's say, in a discussion where teachers are discussing lessons, 1 minute na mawala ka lang online, you know, maybe crucial or critical. No? The other struggle would be computer literacy, as mentioned by Dan. How are our students coping with literacy in using computers and gadgets? No, as we know, I mean, there are a lot of users. It's easy. We know that, you know, our young kids can easily learn it, but then again, we will not be, you know, each student will not be on the same page as far as navigating maybe the internet or using some of the platforms that we will use, that the teachers will use. No, so there might be some struggles there in terms of getting everybody on board in using, you know, certain platforms or online tools. Where do they get the materials? No, so all of this will be a struggle to doing online learning. The third will be time management. And maybe kay Jenny siguro because of her kids, she is the better person to ask about in terms of time management. Jen, what are the struggles of doing online learning? You talk about time management. Jen?
Yes, Jan, you're on mute.
Hi, sorry. We started work from home, di ba, nung March. So, we realized, nalaman na natin kung ano yung mga struggle na dinaanan natin, katulad nga no na sa technologies, connection, ganyan. And then, time management. When we are staying sa home kasi na nag-work from home tayo, akala ng mga kids kasi natin, hindi tayo nag-work, di ba? And then, diretso hanggang sa gabi na, nag-work pa rin tayo. Pero ito pala yung kailangan natin na i-consider. Dapat alamin din natin na ito yung study time. Dapat ito talaga, mag-stick tayo on this time na i-assess natin yung mga kids natin. Let us not think na okay naman, we are at home, dire-diretso lang. Kasi if we cannot have this time management, ma-stress tayo, especially the kids. And then, maaapektuhan din yung kanilang learning. So, let us, as if they are at school or ganun din, parehas lang din. Parang nasa school lang din sila.
I guess it's the same for everyone, no? Especially when we all were locked down in home. It's very easy to get lost between doing work, in this case for students studying, and at the same time, doing personal stuff because they're at home, no? So medyo may unlike where you're in school, you're focused, no? That's what you're saying. Dito medyo nagahalo kasi ang lapit-lapit ng computer mo, ang lapit-lapit ng gadget mo, ang TV nandyan lang sa tabi. So it's very tempting. That's why, time management is really, really going to be very important, no? And the last, I think in terms of struggle, is one of the more important. It's actually self-motivation. I guess I want to impart, most of the time, the greatest obstacle is really, ang kalaban natin really is our own. No? When we want to do things, and even if we feel it's important, the greatest obstacle is actually ourselves. No? Our drive to do it, our own motivation. Students will need to find the motivation to follow new educational trends. And also getting online and working on the learning is difficult in a home environment. No? Just like our work from home. No? Sometimes nagahalo. Diba? So sabi nga ni Jen, tatrabaho siya, but then again, the kids are there. So the kids wouldn't know that their mom is working. So more often than not, they will probably, go to her while working. So divided yung oras, no? I guess it's those are the balance that the teacher will need to look at on how to be able to instill in the students, keep them motivated, despite the different or the various obstacles or nuances on studying at home. No? So all in all, it's really how the teachers will actually engage with the students, after all these struggles. So I guess on my end, that actually ends the second topic. I'd like to check with our panelists if there are some questions that we might have to discuss. Maybe we can take a few questions, siguro.
Yes, sir.
There are two. Jen, would you like to handle that one? There are two questions. Yeah.
Ano grading system sa modular learning?
Ano ang grading system sa modular learning? Okay, I think in terms of the grading system, a modular learning is actually, to me, it's just like you're cutting the syllabus or yung the whole, let's say for 6 months or 1 sem, you're just cutting it into several activities. No? Parang grading period lang yan. No? And if you talk about grading system, I guess it depends on the school itself. But modular is actually, the modular learning is actually based on, it's actually an outcome based. No? So that means you're cutting, parang ano yan eh, instead na maraming, parang, how do I say it? Instead of isang malaking gagawin mo, hinahati mo into several pieces so that it's easier to chew. So, and each module that is completed, there's a specific task that needs to be completed. How you grade it, it depends on the activities actually. So it really depends on what are the parameters given by the school, no? But since modular is an outcome-based type of activity, to me, what is important is makompleto yon ng students and what was the effort that was put into it. So to me, that is the more important one for modular learning.
Right. Agree, Sir Donby. So just to also share with our teachers, so in a way, I'm also teaching in terms naman po of the corporate world because I'm the one handling our student interns or college interns in the company. So since we have moved to working from home, So we are also working with our virtual interns. And with that, ang grading system po na ginawa namin is high on outputs. So more on ano ba talaga yung na-produce nila. Parang gagawin natin silang mas results-oriented. It doesn't matter kung parang we put high regards for their outputs or deliverables. It doesn't matter how you did it, paano mo yun na-accomplish, but more of ano yung kinalabasan. Yan. And then, nagsiset na lang kami ng parameters or criteria in terms of their attitude, how they were able to communicate well with others, collaborate, in terms of learning, willing ba siyang matuto, yun. Ano yung mga accomplishment or developments niya. Okay?
Yeah, so I think that
Bas?
also answered yung questions ni Mr. Pagadu at saka kay Mr. Martinez. No, there are two questions. No? Yeah.
Then, for those who are curious po, ang question ni Sir Pagadu is how can we ensure and assess the performance of the students that they really did their activities in the modules?
I'd like to answer that then.
Yes, go.
In this new normal of learning, I can say that it should be a three-way. The learners, the students, the teachers, the parents, or the guardian. So let us trust our students that they are doing their assignment guided by their parents or their guardians. Kasi isipin natin, kung ang mga parents din yung magsasagot ng mga assignments or mga homeworks ng kanilang mga anak, sila din naman yung lugi. Kasi we are paying our tuition fees, we are buying them books. So, ayaw din naman natin na malugi tayo. So, I think hindi naman po siguro dadating dun sa point na ang mga parents or the guardians yung gagawa ng mga assignments or yung mga exams ng kanilang mga students. Let us put this way na let us always ask our students and always inculcate in their mind that you are happy na nagawa nila itong mga assignments nila or mga lessons nila. Kasi at a young age naman, kapag nire-reverse psychology mo yung mga kids, ginagawa nila yan Parang sabihin, kamustahin niyo sila, di ba? It is more on collaboration, di ba, during this time. Pagka nararamdaman yan ng mga students nila na tinatrust sila ng kanilang mga teachers, I'm sure sila yung gagawa ng mga exams and mga lessons nila.
Also to add lang to Miss Jenny's point as well. So that's for really on assignments or tasks that they do offline, right? Where the teachers could not see them. So there's a striking balance naman if the teacher would really like to assess other factors as well. So the online or the synchronous learning or the time where the teachers chat with the kids, you can also assess the student to that manner, diba? So it's really striking the balance. So kung offline, ma-check mo kung paano niya ginagawa yung mga assignments niya. Yun naman sa synchronous learning, ma-check din naman ni teacher kung ano talaga yung performance or ma-assess din ni teacher kung ano yung performance ng student. So you can check with the student kung naintindihan ba niya talaga. So maybe an graded recitation or maybe just a chat just to check the understanding if that student really understood the lesson. So there's also a balance naman, I think. So the term here is flexible talaga. And striking the balance. I think that's the operative word in this new normal.
Okay. There are two open questions pa from Cheryl Torres. She mentioned what to do for those learners not submitting their outputs on time. Well, different approach, no?
Can I answer that one? Sige.
Yeah,
But
sure.
Cheryl, I
Sure.
think one of the things here that we have to consider as a teacher is that we don't have all the same and equal resources. So there might be delays in, let's say, uploading a video or uploading a Word file. Or it could be in terms of, I don't have the laptop right now, so hindi siya on time talaga. Okay. So I think this one we have to be a little bit more considerate or kind in terms of late submissions, especially for kids who are studying in public schools. Okay. So yeah, so ito yung magiging challenge, no? One of the challenging things. So we have to be a bit more kinder. Okay? Kung mabait na tayo noon, mas maging mabait pa tayo ngayon because of these. Or we could actually talk to this student, why was the submission late or bakit hindi ka makakapag-submit. And then, once you get to know about the reason, then that's the time that you can actually rationalize and maybe provide an alternative activity that is workable within the resources of the student. Right? Okay.
Okay.
Anything else you guys want to add?
I'd like to add, reality naman in before na yung mga students, 'di ba? Meron talagang nalilate on submission. So they have their own stories kung ano yung mga dahilan, kung bakit sila na late. And still, teachers are encouraging them or giving them pa ng mga allowances, more time to submit. If we can do, and if we did that before na normal tayo, wala pang pandemic, what more na hindi natin to magagawa ngayon? Hindi ba?
Marami pa tayong questions dito. Parang very engaged ang ating teachers ngayong umaga. Okay, how do students keep their motivation in studying, even if their environment is not conducive for learning? Anyone else who wants to answer this? What are the tips that we actually provide our teachers on how they can keep their students motivated, especially if the environment is not conducive for learning?
That's one. It's a difficult question. So again, it's a difficult struggle, as I said,
Yes.
because each and every student is is different. No, I guess I'd like to understand. I mean, for me, if I were the teacher, I want to understand the certain circumstances. As Jenny mentioned, it's a three-way. The parent will have to be involved as well, because if you're talking about an environment that is not conducive and the student is not in the classroom, you're assuming that they are at home, and if the home is not conducive, then I'd like to find out and understand from the parent, because it goes beyond just learning. It involves the home, and maybe the best resource person that I can seek help will probably be the parent. No? But I don't know if that is feasible for a teacher with maybe several students who would be in that situation. No? So it's really a struggle. So there's no one answer to it, actually. You just need to find really a way on how to motivate. Ang nakiisip ko lang bigla is, the students' parents would probably be a big help in resolving that issue.
Yes, agree, Sir Dondy. And actually, I've also seen students in news who are studying, although bawal sila lumabas ngayon, pero may mga students tayo na sa labas nag-aaral before. Sa labas ng bahay because it's dahil maingay sa bahay, hindi sila makapag-concentrate. So this is going to be a tough challenge for our students who don't have a conducive environment for learning as of the moment. All right. So yeah, that's a very difficult question to be answered by us. I think this one needs more attention from external help na. Okay. All right. Tips and strategies, how can we assess skills under technical or vocational specialized subject in online or distance learning. Okay, would you like to answer this one, Ms. Bass? I actually have an answer. You can add up to it na lang. Alright, so strategies, their skills. I think the number one that would be very effective is in terms of application. Give them exercises on how you can further assess their skills. So let's say you ask them to create a Facebook page containing different content. So let's say instead of reporting, what you ask them to do is to create a Facebook page. So it's as if working as a website or their own website. Okay, so they create their own Facebook page. They post their privately their content, their write-ups, pictures, PowerPoints. So that's one thing. All right. So that's one thing that you could actually assess their skills or capabilities, what they were able to learn. I'm talking in terms of Facebook. I know it's a social media, pero kasi this is a common ground for everyone. Eh. This is something that we all understand. Whether you're young, you're old, whether you're working or not, okay, everybody knows Facebook, okay? So I think that that is one example. It's also one tip that could also address an effective way of creating storytelling to your students. That is Ms. Roselgo's question. Other way of effective storytelling. Yeah. So it can be a group, a close group that you would like to create, or it can be a Facebook page, and then your students will just submit to you the link of the Facebook page that they have created for you to check them out. Okay. Any other suggestions, Ms. Bass, Ms. Jen, Sir Dondi?
I think on the question on the effective storytelling, I think for storytelling, what's really important is to connect with emotions. That's really, I think, the best or the key there for storytelling. Connect with emotions, connect with the audience or the students. So I think that's really an effective way. Yun yung meet. It's not just telling the story na saying it lang. It should be a script that connects to the students. I think that's one tip that I can give. Relatable. Yun pala yung hinanap kong word. It should be relatable. Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, so
Right.
I think that's about it. In terms of yung first question natin kanina, I was just looking at the chat. No, I haven't read really all the chats, but what I'm seeing is that a common struggle or problem, worries ng mga teachers natin who are in the audience right now is majority marami time management. No, maybe we're in the same boat as everyone else, where they will have to juggle between doing their courses for the next for their next session or during teaching, and at the same time juggling it with their mom duties or their dad duties or their duties at home. No? So I guess it's everybody's in the same boat. No? So that's what I'm seeing lang, no? In terms of the chat, yung mga sumagot po ng mga questions. And thank you for the questions. I guess it's really something that we need to address, time management. No, it has always been the case. And
Yes.
then I think for the next session, no, as we wrap up this session, I think the next session is actually help them creating, no, flexible teaching.
Yeah,
Tama ba?
creating a flexible learning environment.
Okay. Hopefully, yeah. Well, hopefully we were able to impart some of the tips and the knowledge that we also got from several sources, and I hope that the ones that we've discussed are very helpful to you. If you can take away one or two of the tips or the sessions that we have today, that is something. This session has already been a success. We want to thank Thames, my colleagues from Union Banks, the panelists, Dan, Jen, and Bas. And of course, the audience today, which, we have about 265 teachers. Kudos to you, mga teachers. We know how important your role is and the struggles that you're facing. And hopefully with this online course, we will be able to help you in how you deliver that momentum of learning to students. No, we have shared here how you will be able to enroll in the Heroes 2021 online course. I think aside from just this session, there are a lot of materials that you can take a look at. You can view all the courses. I think there are a lot of courses, pero maikli lang. No? If you have the time to look at it, it's going to be very helpful to you. So, the collaboration of James, EduRescue, Union Bank, and City Savings, we put up this online course to help, especially the teachers.
Thank you, Sir Don.
By the way, Sir Dondi, this is free.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah. This is
Ray,
actually
would you like
free.
to elaborate?
Okay.
Then,
Yes, Sir Don. For those who have not enrolled yet, here are just the simple steps on how to register. So you just go to your browser and type heroes2021.org on the upper right hand. Then you will be asked for your details like your name, your email, and your password. Then just click sign up. You will be directed to this page, all courses. So click this one. And then here's the selection of the course. So please choose Union Bank and City Savings Bank course. Afterwards, you will be directed to this page. Just click enroll now. And then order summary. Sorry, medyo mabilis po ang ating slide. Just add a coupon code. So you can use the Union Bank or City Savings Bank union code, which we'll also post in the chat later on. And then afterwards, upon successful enrollment po, you will receive a message that says, thanks for enrolling. And then after your enrollment, you can now proceed to the course curriculum. So yun lang po, very easy lang po yung steps natin. And then we also have our live webinars scheduled on August 26 to October 3. Same time po tayo from 9 to 10 a.m. Just in case po that you for the next session, you can still use the same link that you have used today. So Sir Don, here is the please invite once again our participants for the next session.
Yeah, please. We would like to invite all participants and maybe invite some of your colleagues as well on the flexible teaching seminar or webinar tomorrow. No, that's going to be tomorrow at 9 a.m. No? So we'll have the same team as your panelists talking about a different, still on flexible learning, but a different subtopic that we will discuss tomorrow. So hope to see everyone, and please invite your colleagues as well. This is something that will be beneficial to you. Again, from Union Bank, City Savings, Thames, and EduService, thank you very much for attending today's session, and have a nice weekend. Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you.
See you again.
See you
We're
tomorrow.
also live on Facebook, are we? Were we also live on Facebook?
Tomorrow we will be live in the City Savings Bank Facebook page.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.